I want to show people in Canada, I want to tell them this simple story. And that if Canada wants to really be a country, then it needs to include everybody. And it needs to take care of everybody.
It was a bloody day at the Mohawk Indian community in Oka, Quebec, near Montreal. Provincial police in riot gear stormed the barricades the Mohawks had set up. There were clouds of tear gas, a hail of bullets, and in the midst of the battle, a policeman was killed. Tonight, it's a standoff, the situation very tense.
The heart of the Oka Crisis, where in 1990 an armed standoff began between Mohawks and the Canadian authorities. This all began in the Oka village down the hill. I saw the tactical squad heading up the hill, and I thought to myself, they're going to go kill everybody up there.
Are you? There's children here and you're shooting tear gas at us.
Then everything went on like that all summer, kind of a standstill. The SQ would grab us when they'd catch us at their barricades when we tried to leave.
Canadian armed forces were deployed. They deployed an entire brigade of 4,500 troops, complete with armored units, armored personnel carriers, tanks, helicopters, jets, artillery units, and naval forces as well to contain these two communities of Kanesatake and Ganawagi. Mass rioting by the white Quebecois Chateauguay, residents of Chateauguay, a nearby town, demanding that the military go in and crush this uprising. So it really inflamed a lot of the local racial tensions. Across the country, there was a widespread solidarity movement that arose to defend the Mohawk.
Relentlessly throughout the day, and by evening they were here in the very center of the Kanesatake encampment. They were at the edge of the sacred Mohawk cemetery. The warriors calmed down, although not much, and they took to taunting the soldiers face to face.
I must be number one on your list, eh? Or you're number one on my list too.
Nervous, perhaps? You think? You nervous? Hey! Motherfucker.
I saw the people I grew up with in this community, young and old. Everyone it was like you had just shook a beehive. Big bulldozer was brought in to dismantle the barricades. Well, one guy jumped in there. He jumps in and he starts ransacking all the police vehicles that had been left along the road over here, using those vehicles as a barricade to block the main road that you saw during 1990. They brought in a huge log they had cut down and tossed the log, and that was it, the beginning of the Oka Crisis.
Barricade is completely surrounded by the Canadian Army. The soldiers have dug themselves in after a day of high tension and drama. It all began at about 1 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon. Army units moved in here at a location the Mohawks refer to as the North Pole. Soldiers also took this barricade on the western edge of the community. Then they pressed on toward the final blockade.
The shooting started from in front, where the SQ, the provincial police, were coming in. The bullets were going by our heads. After the shooting had subsided from the front, that's where it started from the back. Our guys started shooting back in self-defense. It was like surreal what was going on.
The infantry major in charge made it clear he was heading for the barricades at any cost and that bullets would be met with bullets. As soon as I'm able to move forward, I move forward. Are you moving right through to the barricades? There's the barricades down there? Yes, sir. has taken 3 barricades. As promised, the Army rolled into Oka and Chateauguay today. Police barricades that have stood for 41 days were quickly removed, replaced with barbed wire, much heavier firepower, and solid armor.
When the Army came in, we thought, oh, for sure, now it's really going to hit the fan. And I remember that sense of dread. I had a friend of mine, Joe David, who's now passed away. His code name was Stone Carver. He says, you have no idea how close he came a couple of times to an all-out shootout with the Army. It came close. He says, we didn't really have that much ammunition, he says to me. He says, the only thing we had was enough to make a symbolic stand, but it would have been suicide for the whole lot of them.
The Mohawk warriors who had so often threatened armed resistance were simply herded ahead of the rolling armor. From here on in, I guess we're going to be burying each other. Warriors were nearing hysteria at the sight of soldiers near their tribal cemetery.
Get back! Get back!
Then something remarkable. Mohawk women assumed command and cleared their men.
Get back! Stay back! Kick your ass!
God! Shoot!
Get him out of here!
Shoot!
Back!
To begin with, it seemed almost nonchalant. The first few Mohawks out of the compound just started down the hill towards the town of Oka.
Hey, this guy's got a knife!
Then warriors began to emerge, showing defiance instead of surrendering to the army as they were expected to do.
Okay, les journalistes, back off a bit! Back off! Back off!
The Mohawks who managed to get through the army lines walked smack into the arms of the waiting Quebec police.
And the 77-day siege ended when the armed Mohawks burned their weapons and walked out of the final area that they had been contained in. But they refused to surrender, and they got into clashes with the military and the police as they tried to enter this area. But that was the ending of the 77-day siege. Something like 30 or 40 of these people were later acquitted on the grounds of self-defense in court.
The army said there were over 50 people taken away from the warrior camp, including 23 warriors. By 9:30, the army was beginning to pull out at the end of their 2.5-month siege.
Restez calme, bougez pas, pointez pas d'armes.
almost like the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz when the Wicked Witch was killed.
Have been greatly reduced over the years, but there's a lot of work. There's so much work to be done. That shared existence in this area is going to be a peaceful or one marred in conflict and division. It'll depend on the leaders and the frame of mind that they have. It has to end somewhere. It can't continue like this. It's not good for us. It's not good for the area. It's certainly not good for the people of Oka. So I'm hoping that might still yield some favorable results.